And meanwhile, another big story we're following this hour. Election officials in Florida hoping to wrap up the recount before tomorrow's deadline. Most counties have finished the hand recount in the hotly contested Senate race, where Republican Rick Scott holds a slim lead over Democratic incumbent Bill Nelson. Peter Doocy is live in Lauderhill, Florida, with the latest. Hi, Peter.
Arthel, this is the last hour for anybody who might have been told that their ballot was set aside because of a problem with a signature to come to an election facility and fix it. But even if the 5,700 or so that are outstanding are all fixed and they all go for Bill Nelson, the Democrat, it is very difficult to see a big comeback for him, and that is because of the math. And the hand recount only helped the Democratic incumbent get 274 votes closer to Republican Rick Scott here in Broward. That is not nearly enough to make up a 12,000 plus vote deficit. And again, that deficit isn't going to be closed completely, even if all 5,700 of these mail ballots are returned today by 5 o'clock, or if the 2,000 ballots that somehow went missing here in Broward County between Election Day and the start of the recount are somehow all found and included and all go for Bill Nelson. But these missing ballots are something that have Nelson's lawyers here very upset, and they are not getting a clean answer from the director of the election here, Brenda Snipes, about where they are.
The ballots are in the building. The ballots are in the buildings. Somebody must have put their stack in a tray where it didn't belong, and we didn't pick that up. So we continue to count. What we can do is go back and recount. The ballots are in this building. There would be nowhere else for them to be, but they are misfiled.
Broward County officials are officially doing a hand recount right now of the agricultural commissioner's race, but lawyers for the Nelson campaign continue pressing for answers about the missing ballots in the Senate recount. Both Senate candidates have been laying low. Nelson and Scott have not been out in public much, so there's no new indication that Nelson might be getting ready to concede, especially because the Florida Democratic Party is sending out a fundraising appeal asking for donations to keep up the legal fight. Arthel?
Peter Doocy, thank you very much. And for more on this, we're going to go to Amber Athey. She's the breaking news editor at the Daily Caller, and we're going to start there with Broward County, Amber. Look, so they missed the machine recount deadline by 2 minutes. So election night numbers stand. They completed the state-mandated hand count in, just 2 hours. Are voters themselves up in arms?
Well, they should be, especially considering it seems like the Broward County election supervisor, Brenda Snipes, has not been accurately counting all the votes that should be counted. From the beginning of this process, it's been an absolute disaster. In addition to the number of allegations of misconduct in Ms. Snipes' past, in this election alone, she's been accused of not giving information to both parties involved in the race, including how many ballots there were left to count and the initial count of ballots, in terms of, in addition to that, Brenda Snipes, excuse me, in
That's okay.
Broward County and Palm Beach.
You know what, Amber, hold that thought for me, because we'll go back to Dr. Snipes in a moment. I do have a specific question regarding her. But, you know, look, a deadline is a deadline, but you know, is or can any group contest that the recounted votes by machine in Broward County won't count because of 2 minutes? I mean, you know, if you pull up an app on your phone, you call a car service, at least they'll wait 4 minutes for you.
Right. Well, I'm not sure who would actually contest this, because when you look at the results of the recount, there would actually be more votes going to Rick Scott in this case. So it's
listen, and understand where my perspective on this. It's about voters having confidence in the system, not about the outcome. I understand as it looks at this moment, what we do know that the votes may not be in favor of Senator Nelson, but that aside, I mean, people are said your one vote always counts. Get out there, you know. And so to hear in Peter Doocy's report just now, Dr. Snipes saying, I think the number was like 2,000 votes, that were set in the wrong file, so they weren't counted. You know, what are people to make of what's happening?
Right. There's no doubt that voters should be concerned that their votes are not being counted in this election. Broward County is not the only place where ballots have gone missing. After the initial machine recount in Palm Beach, they discovered that they were missing so many votes that this could not have been due solely to the recount, and that there were certain precincts of their county that were not included in that recount, and they were still trying to figure out where those were coming from. So voters should absolutely be concerned. You know, I hear people talk about all the time the integrity of our elections. Democrats are still talking about the 2016 election with President Donald Trump and saying that that was illegitimate because of Russia. We should also be concerned about things that are happening domestically.
No, stop. Don't do that. Don't mix those up. We're not talking about Russia, and we had proof from our intelligence agencies that Russia did interfere in our election.
But not that they changed any votes.
Right now,
so my point is that
we're talking about incompetence.
Right.
That's what we're talking about, by people who are from America right here in this country. So don't confuse the two. Now, regarding Broward County, of course, there have been many complaints over the years. So I ask you, what is the future of Dr. Brenda Snipes, who is the supervisor of elections in Broward County? And also, I mean, is there any real talk of fixing the antiquated and dysfunctional voting systems in Florida and across the nation, for that matter?
Right. In terms of the machine recount, what they use there are these automatic scanner machines. In my opinion, those should be used in the first place as opposed to hand counting ballots. It seems to be a much more efficient way, provided the machines don't overheat as they did in Palm Beach. Of course, Jeb Bush was the person who first appointed Brenda Snipes, and he's now calling for her to be removed. And a lot of people are saying that's the best course of action because of her history of misconduct. The reason I brought up Russia was because I think that people should be concerned about everything that undermines our election, both foreign and domestic causes. That was my point there, not to compare the two.
Well, I appreciate that you clarify where you were going there. It's just that, you know, and we have to go, Amber, and I appreciate your reporting, because there's so much confusion, and it's our job to do our best to try to, you know, simplify and give proper information and clarification as to what's happening there. And that's where I was coming from with that. But our time is up. I thank you very much. We will see you again. Amber Athey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
And we have a Fox News alert on the continuing confrontation that is brewing at the southern border. The first group of that so-called migrant caravan, well, they've now arrived in Tijuana, Mexico. Just over the border, they're seeking asylum in our country. And thousands more are expected to arrive there soon. Here's reaction from the president earlier today.
We have large numbers of people trying to get into our country. I must say the reason it's increased so much is because we're doing so well as opposed to the rest of the world. And if you look at south of our border, is not doing so well.
William Lajeunesse is south of the border. He is right over it. You see the fence behind him in Tijuana on the beach. Hi, William.
Well, Eric, this is where the caravan wanted to make camp, on the beach, but the locals confronted them the first night, forcing the city to open a shelter instead. Also from here, you can see where the Border Patrol put up that razor wire on top of the fence so they can't climb over it. And as Lance moves over here, you see these anti-scaling plates. So therefore, the barbed wire, if you will, is not necessary. And as we come up here to the top, this is where the locals last night actually had a protest against the migrants. They don't want them here, and they have the support of the mayor. So contrast that to the other Mexican cities over the last 3 weeks where the caravan was welcome. The difference is they may be here likely for a long time, 6 to 18 months, according to the governor. And they've got about 2,600 in town today, according to the government, and that could double to over 6,500. So they're realizing their situation is not ideal. Rock on a hard spot, right? They haven't got a lot of options here. They can no longer walk over the border, claim asylum, and get released because President Trump signed that executive order. So they feel misled, they told me today, by some of the leaders of the caravan that they're not telling more. So I'm going to send it back to you, Eric, because I'm sending it back to you, Eric. I'll have more on this tomorrow. Bye.
All right, William. Thanks very much. Martha?
Well, Eric, President Trump making a surprise endorsement supporting Nancy Pelosi in her bid to become Speaker of the House again. What's driving this? A live report and analysis straight ahead.
All right, I brought in Ensure Max.
As Speaker of the House, and some say, well, it may not be completely in jest. There's a growing list of Democrats who are not on board, one considering even running against her. Garrett Tenney in Washington with more.
Right now, Nancy Pelosi doesn't have the votes she needs to become Speaker. At least 17 Democrats are openly opposing her, and a couple dozen others are undecided. Pelosi is known as a deal maker, though, and she's been busy meeting with lawmakers this week to try and win them over. Today, she got a big endorsement from none other than President Trump, who said he's willing to get Republicans to vote for her to put her on top.
I would help Nancy Pelosi if she needs some votes. She may need some votes. I will perform a wonderful service for her. I like her. Can you believe it? I like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's tough and she's smart, but she deserves to be Speaker.
That's not necessarily an endorsement Pelosi was looking for, though, and this week she was adamant that she'll win the speakership with Democratic votes. Congresswoman Marcia Fudge is one of the Democrats considered minutes behind closed doors to discuss what it would take for Fudge to support Pelosi. Afterwards, Fudge said she plans to make a decision over Thanksgiving.
Sometimes you just need a different voice. Sometimes you just need a different kind of a vision. But I want to be clear that I have not said anything negative about Nancy because I think she's a very, very good leader.
Many of Pelosi's critics believe she's been in power for too long and pushed younger lawmakers to the side. So one possibility being discussed to appease those concerns is Pelosi agreeing to limit herself to 2 years as Speaker and then stepping aside to let new leadership take the reins. Eric?
All right, Garrett, thanks so much. Arthel?
All right, well, for more on this, let's bring in Jason Nichols. He's a liberal commentator and professor, and bring in Kim Alfano as well. She's a Republican strategist. Thank you both for being here. So, Jason, I want to start with you.
Thanks for having us.
Will this be an avoidable self-inflicted injury by the Democrats to be embroiled in intramural fighting at the very start of their rule over the House, over the Speaker position?
I really don't believe there's going to be a fight. I honestly believe that Marcia Fudge, who is a fine politician, is not going to run. I think she's going to be a team player. I think that Nancy Pelosi has proven herself to be an effective leader. And there's, you know, when you win the Super Bowl, you don't change your quarterback. So I think she needs to be the leader of the party. Marcia Fudge only has 24 supporters by her own count. She also has some issues in terms of supporting LGBT protections, civil rights protections that I think won't endear her to a lot of other Democrats. So I think that Nancy Pelosi will be the Speaker. I don't think it'll even be close, and I really believe that Marcia Fudge is going to support her.
Kim, what's your take?
I think he's right. She's going to be the leader. I don't know why anybody wants the job. She's going to see what it's like to, be in charge of a caucus that does not agree with itself. It's going to be a thankless job. I cannot wait for her to have to deal with, the socialists in her party and the younger folks from the far left that are going to have some ideas that Nancy Pelosi will even think are far left. And frankly, it's great for the Republican Party. Either way, whether it's her or someone new, they're going to have to make a case for undoing all the good that we've been able to do for raising. They're going to have to make a case for raising taxes and for bringing back regulations that we were able to roll back, and for stopping the economy from moving forward with those types of policies. So I don't know why she wants the job.
Jason, Jason, how can Congresswoman Pelosi, win over whatever opponent she has at this time? And should she, I think Garrett Tinney sort of hinted at this, or, this is what, he doesn't hint, he's a reporter, this is what he addressed in his story. Should Congresswoman Pelosi promise to take on a protege, teach a future Democratic House Speaker if she gets the reins again, while she's
I absolutely believe in mentorship. I think she should be grooming new leadership as she takes the Speaker's position. So I think that that's absolutely a good thing. And as far as taxing people, that's not what's in the Democrats' plan. We want to tax the super wealthy who have the money to pay for things. So I think, even with some of the progressive things that have been argued for, like Medicare for all, you don't get that even in the conversation without ACA. And the way you got ACA was Nancy Pelosi. So I think that even the progressive wing of the party, which I consider myself to be a part of, I think that, they're going to come along and realize that she is an effective leader and that she's the person for the job right now. But she absolutely should groom someone else to take the reins.
So, Kim, let's talk about President Trump. What is his political calculus behind offering votes to Nancy Pelosi? And can he really deliver votes?
I'm sure he can. He's done a lot of things none of us thought he could do. I think the calculus is, again, it's not easy to be the party that has to now come in and, in their minds, scratch everything and start over again. And especially when everybody agrees, Republican, Democrat alike, that the economy is in a good place. So I think that he's happy either way, but I think he has a rapport with Nancy Pelosi. And frankly, we as
She's
Republicans
been a punching bag of his
her
out on the campaign trail the last few months, though.
I was going to say, as Republicans, we put a lot into this, so we'd love to have her right there at the head of this for another couple of years or so until the next set of elections.
How'd that work out for you? Using her as a punching bag didn't work out very well. But what I will say is I think that the president has a different calculus. I think that he wants to sow the seeds of discord within the Democratic Party. He also thinks perhaps that Nancy Pelosi will owe him one on that border wall that's never going to get built. So I think, he's trying to make people distrust one another. He knows if Republicans vote for Nancy Pelosi that maybe some Democrats will start to distrust her. I don't think it's going to work. She's already widely rejected Republican support. She's going to win with Democratic support.
Yeah. Okay, well, Kim, I'm sure you have something to say about that, but I just got a hard wrap, which means I have to go. So I do apologize to you, Kim.
No worries.
But we'll have you on again. Appreciate your perspective to you both, Kim and Jason.
Thanks, Arthel.
Thanks,
Kim.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have to go back to coverage of the California's wildfire. The president witnessing the horrible devastation firsthand. Those fires still ravaging both ends of the state. We have Fox News team coverage on his day-long visit and an update on the firefighting efforts straight ahead. Plus, some lawmakers trying to make sure Robert Mueller's Russia probe is not harmed or even shut down. With the appointment of Matthew Whitaker as acting attorney general, we'll have the battle over him straight ahead.
Pass the pudding, please.
And victims of a devastating wildfire. In an interview airing on Fox News Sunday tomorrow, the president doubled down on his initial reaction to the fires, suggesting poor fire management is at least partly to blame.
You need forest management. It has to be. I'm not saying that in a negative way or positive. I'm just saying the facts. We have to take care of all the dead wood that's so dry. You can take some of these trunks, you can take a match and you can light it on fire.
We have Fox team coverage. Meteorologist Adam Klotz is live from the Fox Extreme Weather Center, but we begin with White House correspondent Kevin Court. Kevin is live in Paradise, California. Hi, Kevin.
Arthel, always nice to be with you, even in a difficult circumstance for the folks here in the beautiful Golden State of California. I just want to say this, from the president's perspective, despite the comment, he wasn't trying to make it political, White House officials say. He was trying to make a statement of fact. In fact, they've said as much today that now's really not the time for politics on the left or the right. The time is to get out there and do what's right, and that is provide all the help we can for the people of the state of California.
Hopefully this is going to be the last of these, because this was a really, really bad one. And I know Gavin's committed, we're all committed, I'm committed to make sure that we get all of this cleaned out and protected.
White House officials tell us that the main focus, Arthel, of this trip is for the president to meet with firefighters and first responders and, of course, the families who've been impacted by these devastating fires. Now, that said, it doesn't mean that the state and the federal government can't work together to do more to prevent fires like this from happening in the future.
We're all in the same path. We do have to do management, maintenance, and we'll be working also with environmental groups. They've really, I think everybody's seen the light. And I don't think we'll have this again to this extent.
Now, I want to share just a couple of facts and figures because I think there's been some misunderstanding about the idea that there's a price tag that you can put on American life. There is no price tag, but clearly this has been an ongoing problem, Arthel, and the president and the White House, for that matter, as well as FEMA and others, are saying this is an expensive problem as well, which should undergird the argument that we can all do better to better manage the forest and better manage the resources that go into trying to rebuild. Let me share this. Since 2000, believe it or not, 2005 that is, the country has given $6 billion in FEMA grants to California to rebuild after these massive fires. That's just one little nugget to explain why they feel like now's the time to get together. Back to you.
Kevin Corke, thank you very much from Paradise, California. And by the way, you can see the full interview with President Trump tomorrow on Fox News Sunday. Check your local listings to see when it airs on your local Fox station. Chris Wallace there with the president. It also airs here on the Fox News channel at 2 p.m. Eastern and again at 7 p.m. Eastern.
You know, one of the topics discussed, of course, has to do with the air quality. You don't have to be at the fire scene to be affected. We're told that the air quality in California is also hazardous. The wildfire is bringing dangerous levels of smoke and exhaust to San Francisco and nearby areas more than 150 miles away. Prolonged exposure considered harmful, even if you're healthy. You know, the San Francisco Chronicle says that going outside in San Francisco, well, man, it's like smoking half a pack of cigarettes. Meteorologist Adam Klotz live in the Fox Extreme Weather Center with more on the air quality. Adam, really, you could like cut it with a knife.
You really can, Eric. And the problem is the topography where this smoke, all this fire, these huge fires, has nowhere to go. Here's where we still have air quality alerts across portions of Northern California, stretching down into Central California. Any of these highlighted areas is under an air quality alert, which means the very young, the elderly shouldn't be spending any kind of time outside in this. Respiratory issues, another concern. And then even generally healthy adults, you wouldn't want to be exercising in this. You head on through it, and then you continue on with your day. But what sets all this up is you've got the mountain ranges, the Sierra Nevadas just off to the west off to the east. On the western side of the state, you have the coastal ranges. And you get this area where all this smoke gets trapped between these mountain ranges. Occasionally, it'll shoot on through and end up to places like San Francisco. But otherwise, in this valley, Sacramento, places to the south, running up towards Redding, all spots where you're going to be kind of stuck in this area where this very thick smoke is going to linger. What's going to help eventually is going to be some rain, but it isn't coming anytime soon. So this is our radar as of right now. Completely clear across the state, still bone dry. So any fires could still spark here in the next couple of days because of that. And as a result, we're still under high fire danger in portions of Northern California, right around Paradise where the campfire was. A quick look here at the extended forecast. And actually, those air quality alerts, Eric, are expected to wrap up on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that is when we see the first big rounds of rain. It's going to knock those particles out of the air and really begin to help some of those folks out across California.
Yeah, man, Tuesday, Wednesday cannot come soon enough. Adam, thank you. Arthel?
Well, President Trump says he answered Robert Mueller's written questions, quote, very easily. So when should the special counsel's team actually receive them? And could it mean the probe is any closer to wrapping up? Also, the showdown over President Trump's appointment of Matthew Whitaker to serve as acting attorney general has now reached the highest court in the land. We will tell you what the Supreme Court now has to do with this political controversy. That's up next.
The rules of luxury. Look, but don't touch.
The president says his written answers to Robert Mueller's questions will be submitted next week. Ellison Barber joins us now from Washington with more. Hey, Ellison.
Hey, Arthel. Yeah, President Trump told reporters that he personally answered about 140 questions from the special counsel, and the president says that they will be submitted this coming week.
It didn't take very long to do them, and they were my answers. I don't need lawyers to do that. Now, you need lawyers for submittal. You need lawyers to go over some of the answers, but they're not very difficult questions.
We reached out to President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, this morning, and so far have not heard back from him. The president says he answered the questions easily, but he also talked about his concerns over a perjury trap. President Trump has repeatedly attacked special counsel Robert Mueller and the investigation into ties between his campaign and Russia. On Twitter this week, President Trump called Mueller's team a disgrace to our nation.
Republicans, including my friend, the Republican leader, say President Trump has not threatened the special counsel investigation, so there's no need to protect it. That's a laugh. He threatens the investigation almost every day. He did this morning in his tweets.
The president has made very clear over a series of almost 2 years now that he finds much of this to be a witch hunt. There is no collusion.
Trump forced out Attorney General Jeff Sessions and named Matt Whitaker acting Attorney General. Democrats and some Republicans say Whitaker is problematic in part because he's criticized the special counsel in the past. There are also questions about the legality of his appointment. Democrats say the president named Whitaker as acting AG because he wants to derail the Russia probe. A bipartisan group of lawmakers are pushing for legislation to protect the special counsel. Perhaps most notably, Republican Senator Jeff Flake. The Senate's top Republican Mitch McConnell has said that sort of legislation, in his view, is not necessary. Arthel?
Ellison Barber, thank you, Ellison. Eric?
Well, the Supreme Court has been asked to weigh in on the illegality or legality of the appointment of Matthew Whitaker as acting Attorney General. So what could they decide if they take it? Hans von Spakovsky joins us, senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and former Justice Department official. Hans, always good to see you. First, do you think that the appointment of Matthew Whitaker is legal?
Yeah, it is. The critics of this have a couple of problems. First of all, these kind of temporary appointments have been made since George Washington. So we have over 200 years of these practices. Second, the president acted fully in compliance with the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, a law that's been used, for example, by Barack Obama to make similar appointments. And the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department issued its third opinion this past week of the Justice Department on this issue, saying this is perfectly constitutional. And by the way, they pointed to an 1898 U.S. Supreme Court decision called U.S. v. Eaton that approved these kind of temporary appointments.
Well, you know what the legal critics say in their filings. Thomas Goldstein, who's really a Supreme Court expert, he founded this SCOTUS blog, as you know. Here's what he wrote in one of his filings in the suit going to the courts. As long as there's been a Department of Justice, Congress has mandated that only a Senate-confirmed official can serve as acting Attorney General. Those provisions are mandatory. The president cannot designate anyone else because Whitaker's appointment does not satisfy the appointments clause. It is unlawful, and he cannot serve as acting Attorney General. I mean, they say, look, the guy's not confirmed by the Senate, so it's illegal.
Yeah, but what Goldstein says in that pleading is not correct. The Federal Vacancies Reform Act, in fact, allows this to be done, and what he is saying, what Goldstein is saying should happen would cause unbelievable chaos. And I'll just give you one example of this. As you know, when a president leaves office, all three of the 93 U.S. attorneys also leave. Those are Senate-confirmed positions. If an assistant can't be temporarily appointed to take over that job, all criminal prosecutions across the country by the U.S. Justice Department would have to cease and stop until the Senate confirms a replacement in each of those 93 seats. That would cause unbelievable chaos, and I just don't think the court is going to believe that that's a good result or one that was contemplated under the Constitution.
Only about 30 seconds left. You think the Supreme Court will take this? And if they do, how would they vote? I mean, Justice Kavanaugh would be a key.
Yeah, I think he is. Now, I think Clarence Thomas has expressed doubts about the constitutionality of this federal law that the president acted under, but I don't know how many other justices would have the same view. Like I said, it's very interesting that President Barack Obama used this same statute to make appointments in the same way, and no one questioned the constitutionality of that.
All right, we'll see what the Supreme Court does, if indeed they take it, and what the ruling could be. Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, always good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Arthel?
Yeah. Well, Eric, as you know, the president has been in California visiting the devastation, or being called out. Yep. A bipartisan bill unveiled in the Senate would crack down on telemarketer scams by slapping major financial penalties. Jackie Heinrich is live in New York City with the details. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Arthel. The bill would dramatically increase penalties for scammers and also improve methods to block fake calls and authenticate real ones. Legislators behind the bill say it's high time something is done with spoof calls reaching epidemic levels. The TRACED Act was introduced yesterday by Senators Ed Markey of Massachusetts and John Thune of South Dakota. If it's passed and signed into law, the TRACED Act would broaden the authority of the Federal Communications Commission, allowing them to levy abusers with fines up to $10,000 per call. The bill comes as data analyzer First Orion released staggering new numbers, estimating that from 2017 to 2018, the rate of scam calls jumped more than 25%. Now they say, quote, nearly half of all calls to mobile phones will be fraudulent in 2019 unless the industry adopts and implements more effective call protection solutions. One of the most popular techniques is neighborhood spoofing. A scammer disguises their phone number as a local number to try to get the cell phone users to pick up. If they do, they're likely to get repeat robocalls, and there are few ways to prevent them. Lawmakers have been trying to go after robocall companies for some time, but current laws are pretty lax. The Traced Act would require that voice service providers adopt technology to authenticate calls. Arthel?
All right, Jackie Heinrich, thank you very much. Eric?
And as we continue this afternoon, President Trump continues his tour through California, visiting the areas devastated by the wildfires. We will have live reports on the president's day and what he is doing straight ahead.